Back up.
I'm EMS. She needs assessment.
I don't care what you say you are. Back up.
You can't block medical. Let me treat her.
The patient's breathing sounded wrong. Not loud, not dramatic. Just thin, like each inhale had to be negotiated. EMT. Jalen Price knelt on wet asphalt beside a crumpled sedan, gloved hands already moving the way muscle memory moves when seconds matter. The scene was lit by strobes, red, blue, amber, washing the street into a pulse. A woman lay half-turned on her side near the open driver's door, eyes unfocused, lips tinged pale. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Jalen asked. He leaned closer. No answer. He reached for her carotid pulse, and then a boot stepped into his space. "Back up!" the officer barked. Jalen looked up. Officer Wade Harkins stood over him with one hand out, palm down, like he was stopping traffic, not stopping care. "What?" Jalen said, already rising, already trying to keep his voice level. "I'm EMS. She needs assessment." Harkins didn't blink. "I don't care what you say you are," he snapped. "Back up." Jalen stared. His uniform said, City EMS, in reflective letters. His radio was clipped to his chest. His ambulance sat 10 feet away with its lights on. And still, the officer acted like Jalen was an intruder at his own call. "Officer," Jalen said, careful, "we need to treat her now. If you want scene control, fine, but you cannot block medical." Harkins stepped closer. "Watch your tone," he said. Tone in an emergency. The patient's breath hitched. Jalen felt heat rise in his chest. He pushed it down, because he recognized the posture. Authority that doesn't want coordination. Authority that wants compliance. A nearby dashcam captured the angle. A bystander's phone caught the audio. And the body camera on Harkins' chest blinked red. Because months later, the city would settle for $2.6 million. Not because an accident scene got hectic, because an officer blocked an EMT from treating a patient, and the record made it impossible to pretend it was just a misunderstanding. Rewind to how the scene even got this unstable. It was 8:11 p.m. on a rainy Thursday, the kind of rain that doesn't pour, it slicks everything, makes lane paint shine, makes brake lights smear into long red reflections on the road. The call came in as a 2-car collision with possible injuries at the intersection of Fulton and 9th. Police first, EMS dispatched, standard. But standard only works when everyone respects the same priorities. Secure the scene, assess the patient, treat, transport, and communicate. Jalen Price had been an EMT for 6 years, 30 years old, calm voice, fast hands. The kind of provider partners liked because he didn't panic. He focused. He came into EMS after his younger brother nearly died in an asthma attack because an ambulance was delayed. Jalen decided then he wanted to be the person who arrived, not the person waiting. He trained, tested, worked nights, learned trauma protocol so well he could recite it while half asleep. And he learned something else that wasn't in the textbook. Some scenes are more dangerous because of cars. Some scenes are more dangerous because of people. And the most dangerous scenes are the ones where authority competes instead of collaborates. Officer Wade Harkins had his own reputation. Not for arrests, for control. He was the kind of officer who treated every scene like his scene, even when the scene belonged to medicine, even when the scene belonged to fire, even when the scene belonged to common sense. He'd been on the force 4 years, young enough to still prove something, old enough to think he already had, and he hated being corrected, especially in public, especially by people he didn't instinctively respect. By the time Jalen's ambulance arrived, Harkins was already in the intersection. Traffic blocked, hands waving, voice sharp. He was doing the job of controlling cars, but he was also doing something else. He was building a perimeter that didn't just keep civilians back, it kept help out. Jalen and his partner, Bree Martinez, hopped out with their trauma bag. Bree was shorter, quick, and all business. She moved toward the passenger side of the sedan. Jalen moved toward the driver. They did not waste time, because the driver's door was open and the patient looked dazed. Possible head injury, possible internal bleeding, the kind of patient who can talk 1 second and crash the next. That's when Harkins intercepted. He stepped between Jalen and the patient. "Hold up," Harkins said. Jalen didn't stop moving. "Officer, we're EMS," he replied. "We need access." Harkins pointed toward the sidewalk. "Back," he ordered. Jalen stared. "Why?" Harkins's eyes narrowed. "Because the scene isn't safe," he snapped. Jalen looked around. Traffic was stopped. Fire hadn't arrived yet, but nothing indicated immediate danger that justified blocking care. "No leaking fuel," Bree said quietly, eyes scanning. "No fire," Jalen replied. He looked back at Harkins. "Then let us treat," he said. Harkins's jaw tightened. "I said back up," he repeated. And that's when the moment turned. Not from coordination to conflict, from priorities to ego. Jalen tried the professional route. He lowered his voice. He used procedure. "Officer," he said, "we can stage if needed, but we need at least a quick assessment. If she's altered, we need vitals, GCS, C-spine." Harkins scoffed. "English!" he snapped. Bree blinked. Jalen held his temper. "I'm telling you she may be critically injured," he said. "You're delaying care." Harkins stepped closer. "You're delaying my investigation," he said. "Investigation, in the first minutes of trauma." Jalen stared. "What investigation matters more than her airway?" he asked. Harkins's eyes flashed. "Watch your mouth," he said. And there it was. The moment the officer made it personal. Not safety, not patient, personal. A bystander near the crosswalk raised a phone. "You can't do that!" someone shouted. Harkins turned. "Back up!" he barked at the crowd. Then he turned back to Jalen. "You're not touching her until fire gets here," he said. Jalen's voice tightened. "Fire is not required for us to assess," he replied. "We're trained. We're equipped. We're here." Harkins didn't answer. He planted his feet. A human barrier. A badge as a wall. Bree tried another angle. "Officer, I'm going to the passenger," she said. Harkins snapped his head. "Both of you stay back," he ordered. Bree froze. Jalen's patience thinned. "Officer," he said, controlled, "are you ordering us to not treat a patient?" Harkins stared. "Yes," he said. The word hung in the rain. "Yes, on Bodycam, on phones, in front of witnesses. Yes." The patient moaned. A small sound, a warning. Jalen moved anyway. 1 step, not aggressive, not threatening, just instinct. Harkins shoved him back, not a punch, a forceful push to the chest. Jalen stumbled. His boot slipped on wet paint. He caught himself. Bree yelled, "Hey!" The bystander's phone shook, and in that second, the incident stopped being a disagreement. It became use of force against an EMT during patient care. Jalen lifted his hands. "I'm not resisting," he said. "Do not touch me. We need to treat." Harkins's face hardened. "You want to go to jail?" he snapped. Jalen stared. "For what? Doing my job?" Harkins's hand drifted toward his cuffs. "Interfering," he said. "Interfering. The same word power uses when it wants to win." Fire arrived at 8:17. Engine 6. Diesel rumble. Turnout gear. A captain who took one look at the scene and immediately focused on the patient. "EMS, what do you have?" the captain asked. Jalen stepped forward. "Altered driver, unknown injuries, need access," he said. Harkins cut in. "Hold them," he snapped. I'm not done. The captain turned to Harkins. Officer, he said, voice calm but firm, we're treating now. Harkins bristled. You don't run this scene, he said. The captain's eyes narrowed. Then we're going to have a problem, he replied, because in emergency work, hierarchy is supposed to serve the patient, not the ego. The captain stepped past Harkins. Jalen followed, and Harkins, caught on Bodycam, reached again. He grabbed Jalen's arm. Stop! He barked. Jalen yanked free. Not a strike. A reflex. Harkins shouted, Stop resisting! Bree yelled, He's EMS! And the patient, still in the driver's seat, slumped further. Her head rolled. Her breathing got worse. The captain swore under his breath. Move, he said to Harkins, voice dangerous. Now. Harkins didn't, so the captain physically repositioned between them. A firefighter's body, broad and uncompromising, became the barrier, not to keep care out, to keep conflict away. Once Jalen had access, everything moved fast. Airway assessment, C-spine, pulse, skin, blood pressure, glucose. The numbers weren't good. The patient was hypotensive, possible internal bleeding. Bree called for a rapid transport. The captain called for extrication readiness, and all of it was delayed. By minutes. Minutes that matter. At the hospital, the patient survived, but she coded briefly in the trauma bay. A doctor later wrote in the chart that delay in pre-hospital assessment may have contributed to deterioration. Those words, may have, are careful. Medical language is careful, but careful language still describes harm, and harm has consequences. Back at the scene, Harkins wrote a report. He claimed EMS was aggressive. He claimed Jalen interfered. He claimed he delayed care for scene safety. But the footage contradicted him. The bystander video showed no hazard. The dashcam showed Harkins stepping in front of the patient. The fire captain's statement described Harkins as obstructing care, and Harkins' own bodycam captured the word yes. Yes, he ordered them not to treat. The city tried to contain it. They called it a miscommunication. They said interagency scenes are complex. They praised the professionalism of all responders. But inside the department, people saw the problem. This wasn't complex. Verify safety, then treat. You don't block medicine, not unless there's an immediate threat. And there wasn't. Jalen filed a complaint, not because he wanted a payday, because he wanted a record. He requested Bodycam. He requested dispatch logs. He requested training records. He requested interagency policies on incident command. And he did, something that mattered. He got the fire captain's statement on paper. Because when firefighters say an officer blocked care, it's not he said, she said. It's operational truth. Here's the twist that pushed this into a $2.6 million settlement. Discovery. Because discovery revealed Harkins had been warned. Not for corruption, for behavior. A prior complaint from paramedics about scene control issues. A training note that he struggles with interagency cooperation. A supervisor email recommending remedial training on medical scene priorities. The city had kept him on. And now, with video of him pushing an EMT and delaying patient care, tolerance became liability. The lawsuit alleged civil rights violations, assault, interference with medical care, employment harm, emotional distress, and failure to train and supervise. It also tied damages to the patient's deterioration, not claiming certainty, claiming risk, because when you delay care, you increase risk, and juries understand that. The city didn't want trial, not with a firefighter captain as a witness, not with bodycam showing yes, not with a medical chart noting delay, not with bystander video capturing a shove, so they negotiated, quietly, risk managed, and the settlement landed. $2.6 million. No admission. The standard language. But the policy changes were loud. mandatory interagency training on incident command. Clear rule: EMS access to patients cannot be blocked absent immediate articulable threat. Supervisor review required for any officer who delays medical intervention. Bodycam audits triggered by scene interference complaints. And disciplinary action against Harkins, including removal from patrol duties and a sustained finding of misconduct. Jalen stayed in EMS. That part matters, because the easiest victory for a system that humiliates you is to make you quit. He didn't, but he changed, not into bitterness, into vigilance. He started documenting scenes more. He started asking for supervisors sooner when police tried to control medicine. He started teaching rookies a lesson he hated to teach, that sometimes you have to fight for the right to do your job, even when the job is saving someone's life. Months later, someone asked Jalen what bothered him most. They expected him to say the shove, or the threats, or the humiliation. Jalen said, "The worst part was that the patient became background." He paused. "In that moment," he continued, "it wasn't about her. It was about him winning, and that's the opposite of what emergency work is supposed to be. And that's the heart of this story. A rain-slick street, a patient fading, an EMT trying to treat, an officer blocking care because he wanted control, a record that captured it, and a city forced to pay $2.6 million because once you see an officer obstruct medicine on camera, you can't unsee it. You can only decide whether you're going to admit it or defend it, and defending it would have been far more expensive than a settlement check." In the end, the patient survived, but the scene left its mark on Jalen, on interagency trust, on policy, and on a city that learned, at a cost, that authority is not supposed to stand between a patient and care, not ever.